Captain Hansel Kim was drinking his morning coffee when the alarms started screaming. He almost dropped his cup as red lights flashed across the bridge of Earth Defense Station Aegis Prime. His crew rushed to their stations, faces tight with worry. What's happening? Hansel asked his communications officer. Sir, we're getting signals from deep space. They're not human signals. Hansel felt his heart pound. For years, Earth had wondered if aliens existed. Now it seemed they had their answer. Put it on the main screen, he ordered. Static filled the display, then slowly cleared. A strange face appeared. It looked almost human, but with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. When it spoke, the words were strange, but a computer voice translated them into Korean. People of Earth, we are the Velthari. We need your help. Our worlds are dying. Down on Earth, Commander Jiwoo Park was having lunch with her family when her emergency phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and sighed. Work was calling again. Sorry, honey, she told her husband. I have to take this. But when she answered, the voice on the other end made her freeze. Commander Park, you need to get to headquarters right now. We have first contact. Jiwoo dropped her chopsticks. First contact, you mean ... aliens. Commander, real aliens. And they want to talk. Within an hour, Jiwoo was sitting in a secure room with Admiral Dongmin Lee and a dozen other officials. On the screen before them, the blue-skinned alien was speaking slowly so the translation computers could keep up. I am Velthari Council Speaker Nethera, the alien said. We speak for 3 worlds and 7 billion lives. For 10 years, we have fought the Harvester Swarm. They are machines that eat worlds and turn them into more machines. They do not talk. They do not stop. They only consume. Admiral Lee leaned forward. Why are you telling us this? The alien's large eyes seemed to show pain. Because we are losing. Our fleets are broken. Our worlds fall one by one. We heard stories of a young species in this part of space, a species that fights in strange ways. We hope you can help us. What kind of help? Jiwoo asked. We offer you our technology, faster ships, better weapons, energy shields. In return, we ask for military aid. The room fell silent. Everyone knew Earth's military was small. They had 3 colony worlds and maybe 50 ships that could be called warships. Most were converted mining or transport vessels. Admiral Lee spoke carefully. We appreciate your offer, but our military is limited. We have never fought a space war. The alien's expression grew more desperate. You do not understand. The harvesters adapt to everything we do. Our tactics, our weapons, our strategies, they learn and counter them all. But you are new. You think differently. Maybe you can do what we cannot. In orbit, around Earth, Hans watched the transmission from his station. His crew was quiet, absorbing what they heard. These aliens were asking Earth to fight monsters that had destroyed civilizations. Captain, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Minho Yu, said quietly, do you think we can actually help them? Hansel looked at his small crew. They operated a defense station that had never seen real combat. Their biggest threat was usually space debris. I don't know, he said honestly, but if someone asked me for help and their worlds were dying, I'd want someone to at least try. Meanwhile, in a shipyard orbiting Mars, Foreman Tae-hyun Choi was watching the alien broadcast with his workers. The old man had built ships for 30 years. He knew every bolt and wire that went into Earth's vessels. Poor bastards, he muttered, listening to the alien's plea. His assistant, So-young Nam, looked up from her tablet. Sir, do you think Earth will help them? Tae-hyun spat into his coffee cup. Help them. Girl, look at what we've got. Our biggest warship used to haul ice from the asteroid belt. These aliens are asking us to fight machine monsters with mining equipment. So-young frowned as she thought about it. But sir, they're not asking for our ships. What do you mean? They said they heard we fight in strange ways. Maybe they don't want our ships. Maybe they want us. Back in the secure room, the alien was showing them images of the Harvester Swarm. The machines looked like metal spiders the size of buildings, swarming over planets and tearing them apart. Ships that looked like flying factories, turning destroyed vessels into new weapons. This is their forward fleet, the alien explained. Behind them come the harvesters themselves. They strip worlds bare, leaving nothing but dead rock. Dr. Hae-jin Yoon, Earth's leading materials scientist, studied the images. How do they reproduce so quickly? They use what they destroy, the alien said. Every ship we lose becomes part of their fleet. Every world they take gives them more resources. We cannot match their numbers. Admiral Lee looked around the room. At his advisors, what do you all think? General Kyung-ko Shin, head of Earth's ground forces, shook his head. Admiral, we have maybe 100,000 trained soldiers total. These aliens are talking about a war across multiple star systems. But they're offering us their technology, pointed out Dr. Byung-ho Seo, Earth's top engineer. FTL drives, energy weapons, defensive shields. That's centuries of advancement. Jiwoo studied the alien's face on the screen. Speaker, Nethera, how long do we have to decide? The alien's expression grew darker. Our last major defense line fell yesterday. The harvesters will reach our core worlds in 6 months. If you cannot help us by then, then what? Then we evacuate what civilians we can and prepare for extinction. The room fell silent again. Everyone understood what they were hearing. An entire civilization was about to die, and they were asking Earth, tiny weak Earth, to save them. Admiral Lee stood up. Speaker Nethera, we need time to discuss this with our leaders. How much time? Give us 48 hours. The alien nodded. We will wait. But please understand, every day we delay, more of our people die. The transmission ended, leaving the room in heavy silence. Finally, Jiwoo spoke. 48 hours to decide if humanity goes to war. Admiral Lee nodded grimly. 48 hours to decide if we're ready to become something we've never been before. Outside, Earth continued its peaceful orbit around the sun. Most people didn't know yet that aliens existed, or that they had just asked humanity to help them fight for survival. But in shipyards and military bases, on space stations and in government buildings, a few people were already starting to think about the impossible. What if Earth said yes? 48 hours after the aliens asked for help, Earth's answer shocked everyone, including the aliens themselves. President Chang delivered the message personally to Speaker Nethera. The United Earth government accepts your request for military assistance. We will help you fight the harvester swarm. The blue-skinned alien blinked slowly, as if he couldn't believe what he heard. You will help us. But your military is so small. It won't be small for long, President Chang said firmly. Within 6 hours, Admiral Dongmin Lee stood before a room full of Earth's top military and industrial leaders. Red lights flashed on the walls. Earth was now officially at war. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Lee announced, I am activating Protocol Prometheus. As of this moment, Earth's entire industrial capacity is being converted to military production. General Kung Ho Shin raised his hand. Admiral, Protocol Prometheus is just a theory. We've never actually tried to do it. Well, we're going to. Try it now, Admiral Lee replied. The aliens gave us 6 months. I want a fleet ready in 3. Around the room, faces went pale. Building a proper war fleet usually took years. Dr. Byung-ho Seo, Earth's top engineer, stood up. Sir, the aliens are sending us technical data on their ships and weapons, but we'll need time to understand it all. Then you better work fast. Doctor, in the Mars shipyards, Foreman Tae-hyun Choi was reading the new orders when his assistant Soyoung-nam ran up to him. Sir, look at this. She was holding a tablet showing the work schedules. Tae-hyun looked at the screen and whistled. 3 shifts. They want us working around the clock. Not just us, sir. Every shipyard in the system. They're even converting civilian factories to build ship parts. Within days, Earth's sky began to change. New construction platforms appeared in orbit as civilian companies retooled their factories. Mining stations in the asteroid belt started working overtime, sending raw materials to the shipyards. Dr. Hai Jin-yoon was working in her lab when the first alien technology samples arrived. The materials were like nothing she had ever seen. Metals that were stronger than anything Earth had. Energy cells that held impossible amounts of power. Amazing, she whispered, studying a piece of alien hull armor. But wait, I think I can make this better. Her assistant looked surprised. Better, but this is alien technology. It's hundreds of years ahead of us. Dr. Yoon smiled. Maybe, but they don't know about our steelworking techniques. Look at this molecular structure. If we apply human metallurgy, She started making notes furiously. Captain Min-soo Kang was training the first group of volunteer pilots when Admiral Lee visited the training center. The simulator pods were running non-stop as pilots learned to fly ships that didn't exist yet. How are they doing, Captain? Admiral Lee asked. Better than expected, sir. The alien tactical data is helping a lot. But but what? Captain Kong pointed to the simulator screens. The aliens fight very carefully. Sir, everything is planned out perfectly. Our pilots keep trying to improvise, and the alien computer keeps telling them they're doing it wrong. Admiral Lee watched as a pilot named Yoonji Beek tried a wild maneuver that should have been impossible. The alien computer flashed red warnings, but somehow she made it work. Maybe the computer is wrong, Admiral Lee said quietly. Lieutenant Yoonji Beek climbed out of her simulator, sweat on her forehead. Sir, these alien ships are incredible, but they're designed for pilots who never take risks. What do you mean? Every system has backups, but only one backup. If something breaks, you land and repair it. But what if you can't land? What if you have to keep fighting? Captain Kong nodded. That's what I've been thinking too. Our pilots want to push these ships harder than the aliens ever did. Back in the shipyards, something amazing was happening. Tae-hyun Choi watched as the first hybrid human-alien ship took shape. It looked similar to the alien designs, but different in important ways. Why did you add so many backup systems? Speaker Nethera asked through a video link. The alien was watching the construction with confusion. Tae-hyun spat into his coffee cup. Because stuff breaks in combat. Your ships are built perfect, but perfect isn't good enough when someone's shooting at you. But the extra systems make the ship heavier. A heavy ship that still flies is better than a light ship that's floating dead in space. So Young Nam added, looking up from her work tablet. Dr. Essio was having similar discussions with the alien engineers. They couldn't understand why humans wanted to change their proven designs. Your weapon systems are excellent, Dr. Essio explained to an alien technical advisor, but you mount them in fixed positions. What if we made them modular, swipeable? Why would you need to change weapons during combat? Because different battles need different tools. Sometimes you need precision. Sometimes you need to hit everything in front of you as hard as possible. The alien advisor looked confused but nodded slowly. 3 weeks into the project, something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Youngji Beek was chosen to test fly the first completed hybrid fighter. The small ship sat in the Mars shipyard, looking like nothing Earth had ever built. It had the sleek lines of alien design but was covered in extra armor plates and backup systems that humans had added. "Are you ready, Lieutenant?" Captain Kong asked over the radio. "As ready as I'll ever be, sir." Youngji started the engines. The ship hummed with power that no human-built craft had ever possessed. She slowly lifted off from the platform and moved into open space. "How does it feel?" Dr. Essio asked from the control room. "Like flying a miracle," Youngji replied. "But also, like it wants to go faster." The alien said, "Maximum safe speed is ... double quotes. I know what they said, sir, but this ship has 3 backup power systems. What if I push it a little harder?" Before anyone could stop her, Youngji hit the throttle. The ship shot forward at a speed that made the alien observers gasp in shock. "Lieutenant Beek, reduce speed immediately." The alien advisor shouted, "You will damage the engines." But Youngji was laughing. "Sir, engines are green across the board. This ship wants to fly fast. The aliens just never let it." Meanwhile, long-range sensors were bringing bad news. Captain Hanzhao Kim reviewed the reports from his station. "Admiral Lee, we're getting signals. From Velthari space, the harvesters broke through another defense line. They're moving faster than expected." Admiral Lee studied the tactical display. "How much time do we have?" "Maybe 4 months instead of 6. Admiral Lee closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with new determination. "Send a message to all production facilities. Double the work shifts. We need that fleet ready in 2 months, not 3. "Sir, that's impossible. Tell that to the Velthari when their worlds are burning." Down in the shipyards, Taehyun and Choi read the new orders and started laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. 2 months, So Young Nam asked. "Can we do it?" Taehyun looked out at the dozens of ships under construction. Workers were already exhausted from the around-the-clock schedule. "Earl, 6 months ago we were building maybe 1 military ship per year. Now they want us to build 100 ships in 2 months. He paused, then grinned. "I guess we better figure out how." All across Earth's space, the impossible was becoming reality. Factories that made civilian goods were now producing weapons. Miners were working overtime to feed the hungry shipyards. Pilots were training on simulators that ran day and night, and in labs around the system. Human scientists were learning that sometimes the best way to improve perfect alien technology was to make it a little bit human. The Velthari had asked for help. They expected Earth to maybe send a few ships in a year or 2. Instead, humanity was rebuilding itself into something it had never been before, a war machine. 2 months after the aliens asked for help, Earth launched its answer into space. The Velthari had expected maybe 20 human ships. Instead, they watched in amazement as 847 vessels formed up in battle formation. Admiral Dongmin Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship Seoul's Fury, looking out at the massive fleet. Ships of every size floated in perfect lines, from small fighters to huge assault carriers, all of them built in just 2 months. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're getting a message from Speaker Nethera." The alien's blue face appeared on the main screen. His large eyes were wide with shock. "Admiral Lee, ... how many ships do you have?" 847 combat vessels, plus support ships. Admiral Lee replied calmly. The alien was silent for a long moment. We asked for military aid. We did not expect an entire war fleet. When humans give help, we give all. The help we can." Captain Hansel Kim commanded the destroyer Busan Strike in the advanced squadron. His crew was nervous but ready. Most of them had never seen combat, but they had trained hard for 2 months. "Captain," his tactical officer, Lieutenant Minho, you reported, "we're getting long-range scans of the target system. Kethmer is under heavy attack." Hansel looked at the display. The Velthari world was surrounded by harvester ships, hundreds of them. The mechanical vessels looked like giant metal spiders, their legs reaching out to grab and tear apart anything they touched. "How many Velthari ships are left defending?" Hansel asked. "Maybe 30, sir, and they're losing badly." The human fleet reached the edge of the Kethmar system 3 hours later. What they saw made even experienced officers catch their breath. The planet below was partly covered in strange metal growths where harvester machines had landed. In space, burning wrecks of Velthari ships drifted between the mechanical attackers. "This is Admiral Lee to all ships?" The Admiral's voice came over the fleet communication system. "We're going in. Remember your training, but don't be afraid to improvise. These machines have never fought humans before." Commander Sujin Lim led the first attack wing, 60 fighters against a formation of harvester vessels. She had studied the alien tactical data for weeks, but seeing the enemy in person was different. "Blue Squadron, form up on me," she ordered. "We're going to hit them fast and hard." The harvester ships moved in perfect formation, like a deadly dance. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was supposed to be. It was beautiful and terrifying. "Attack pattern Delta," Sujin commanded. "Break formation and engage." What happened next confused the harvesters completely. Instead of flying in neat lines like the Velthari, the human fighters scattered in all directions. They weaved and dodged, making it impossible for the machines to predict where they would be. Lieutenant Yunji, now promoted to squadron leader, dove her fighter between two harvester ships. Her computer was screaming warnings about dangerous maneuvers, but she ignored them. "This is Viper Lead," she called over the radio. "These things are fast, but they can't handle chaos. Keep them guessing." Her fighter took a hit that would have destroyed a Velthari craft. Sparks flew across her cockpit, but the backup systems kicked in immediately. The ship kept flying. Viper led. "Your port engine is damaged," her wingman reported. "I've got 2 more engines and 3 backup power systems," Yunji replied, pulling into another impossible turn. "I'm staying in the fight." Captain Wonseoke Jang commanded the destroyer Inchin Thunder. He watched the fighter battle with amazement. The human pilots were doing things that alien tactical computers said were impossible. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "we're in range of the harvester capital ships. Target the big one in the center," Wonseoke ordered. "All weapons, maximum power." The destroyer's guns opened fire. The weapons were a mix of human and alien technology, alien energy beams powered by human reactors, guided by human targeting computers that didn't follow alien rules. The harvester ship's shields flared as the shots hit. But something was wrong. The shields flickered and died much faster than they should have. "What happened?" Wonseoke asked his tactical officer. "Sir, our weapons are hitting at different frequencies than Velthari weapons. Their shields aren't calibrated for our technology." Wonseoke smiled grimly. "Then let's give them more than they can handle. All ships, focus, fire on my target." 6 human destroyers opened fire at once. The harvester ship's shields collapsed completely, and the hull began to break apart. But the machines were learning. Within minutes, they started to adapt their shields to match human weapon frequencies. "They're adjusting to our attacks." Lieutenant Commander the Jin-O reported from her position on the Soul's Fury. Admiral Lee nodded. "Then we adjust faster. All ships, switch to pattern gamma weapons mix. Keep them guessing." The battle raged for hours. The harvesters had superior numbers, and their ships could repair damage quickly. But they had never fought an enemy that refused to follow predictable patterns. Captain Hansel Kim found himself in close combat with a harvester boarding ship. The machine craft was trying to attach itself to his destroyer to send robot soldiers inside. "Emergency maneuvers," Hansel shouted. Full reverse thrust. His ship shot backwards at a speed that made his crew grab their seats. The harvester ship, built for grabbing targets that fought in orderly formation, couldn't adjust fast enough. It slammed into empty space. "Now forward, full speed, ram them." "Sir, ramming speed will damage our ship." "Lieutenant," you protested. "Our ship has redundant hull plating. Theirs doesn't." "Do it." The Busan strike slammed into the harvester vessel. Both ships shook from the impact, but the human destroyer's reinforced hull held. The machine ship cracked and began venting atmosphere. But the victory was costly. Human ships were taking damage too. The Daegu Defender was destroyed when its pilot tried a maneuver that even human engineering couldn't handle. The Gwangju Guardian limped away with half its systems offline. "Admiral," Commander Park reported, "we're losing ships. The harvesters are adapting to our tactics." Admiral Lee studied the tactical display. The battle was turning into a grinding match of destruction. Both sides were losing ships, but Earth's fleet was smaller. "Send a message to the Velthari ships," Admiral Lee ordered. "Tell them to coordinate with our attack patterns." Speaker Nethera's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, our ships cannot fight like yours. We need formation, discipline. Then stay in formation and support us." Admiral Lee replied. "We'll be your chaos factor." The combined attack worked better. Velthari ships provided steady, predictable fire support, while human vessels darted around the battlefield like angry wasps, hitting targets and disappearing before the harvesters could respond. But the machines were learning from every exchange. I was starting to predict human tactics. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander O reported, "the harvesters are beginning to counter our maneuvers. They're learning too fast." Admiral Lee looked at the battle display. Human ships were still fighting, but the advantage was slipping away. That's when he noticed something the harvesters hadn't learned yet. All ships, new orders, Admiral Lee announced. When your primary systems are damaged, don't retreat. Use your backup systems and keep fighting. Show these machines what human stubborn looks like. The order was crazy by alien standards. Damaged, ships were supposed to withdraw for repairs. But human ships had been built for exactly this situation. Youngie Beak's fighter had been hit 4 times. Her primary engines were dead, her main weapons were offline, and her navigation computer was sparking. By Velthari standards, she should have been out of the fight. Instead, she switched to backup engines, secondary weapons, and manual navigation. This is Viper-led, she called out. My ship is half dead, but the half that's still alive is really angry. Engaging target. Her damaged fighter dove at a harvester vessel that thought she was retreating. The machine ship wasn't expecting an attack from a disabled craft.eu. Ungie's backup weapons tore into the harvester's rear armor. All across the battlefield, damaged human ships continued fighting when they should have been helpless. The harvester, I couldn't understand it. How could ships with failing systems still be dangerous? The answer was simple. Humans built ships that could keep fighting even when they were falling apart. The battle ended when the last harvester ship finally retreated. Its AI enabled to predict what humans would do next. Admiral Lee looked at his fleet. They had one, but barely. Dozens of ships were destroyed, and many more were badly damaged. Admiral, Commander Park said quietly, we stopped them here. But this was just their advance force. Admiral Lee nodded grimly. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we need more ships. And tell them to build them even tougher than before. Sir, because now the machines know we exist, and they're going to be ready for us next time. 3 weeks after the battle at Kethmer, human scouts brought terrible news. The harvester swarm had built something massive at the edge of Velthari space, a construction facility the size of a small moon. Made from the remains of destroyed worlds, Admiral Dongmin Lee studied the scout reports on his flagship, Soul's Fury. The images showed a nightmare of twisted metal and mechanical arms, constantly building new harvester ships. How many ships are they producing? Admiral Lee asked. According to our estimates, Commander Ji-Woo Park replied, they're building 50 new vessels every day. At this rate, they'll have enough ships to overwhelm us in 2 weeks. Captain Hun-sung Kim joined the meeting via video link from his destroyer. Admiral, we can't fight an endless stream of new ships. We need to stop them at the source. That's exactly what I'm thinking, Admiral Lee said grimly. We're going to destroy that construction facility. Speaker Nethera appeared on another screen, his blue face showing worry. Admiral, that facility is heavily defended. Our intelligence shows over 300 harvester ships protecting it. Then we'll have to get through 300 ships. But Admiral, your fleet only has 400 vessels left after the last battle. The odds are not good. Admiral Lee looked around at his officers. Speaker Nethera, humans don't fight because the odds are good. We fight because fighting is necessary. Chief Engineer Jae-sung Park was working frantically in the weapons lab. For weeks, he had been developing something new, bombs that combined human nuclear technology with Velthari energy manipulation. Will they work? Dr. Byung-ho Co asked, looking at the strange devices. They'll work, Jae-sung replied. The question is whether we can get them close enough to the target. These bombs are powerful, but they're also unstable. One wrong move, and they could explode in our own ships. Dr. Haijin Yoon was working on the same problem from a different angle. I've been studying the construction facility's structure. It's made from salvaged materials, parts of destroyed planets, wrecked ships, everything the harvesters have consumed. What does that mean? Dr. Seo asked. It means the whole thing is held together by magnetic fields and gravity generators. If we can overload the right systems, the entire facility might tear itself apart. The plan was desperate and dangerous. While the main human fleet attacked the harvester defenders, a small strike team would penetrate the construction facility and plant the experimental bombs at key points. Captain Hansel Kim volunteered to lead the strike team. My ship is fast and my crew knows how to improvise, he told Admiral Lee. You know this is probably a one-way mission, Admiral Lee said quietly. I know, sir, but if we don't stop that facility, there won't be anyone left to remember us anyway. Lieutenant Youngie Beak, now commanding her own squadron, would provide fighter cover for the strike team. Her ships had been modified with extra armor and more powerful engines. My pilots are ready, sir, she reported. We'll get Captain Kim to the target. The final battle began at dawn. Ship time. The combined human and Velthari fleet jumped into the system to find the harvester construction facility waiting for them. It was even larger than the scouts had reported. A twisted maze of metal arms and production lines, constantly spitting out new ships. All ships. This is Admiral Lee, the Admiral announced to the fleet. Today we end this war. Attack Formation Delta. Take us in. The harvester defenders moved to meet them. But something was different this time. The machine ships had learned From the previous battle, they no longer flew in perfect formation. Instead, they moved in loose groups, trying to copy human tactics. They're adapting to our style, Commander Sujin Lim reported from her fighter wing. Then we adapt faster, Admiral Lee replied. All ships, new formation. Pattern Omega complete. Chaos. What happened next had never been tried before. The entire human fleet abandoned all formation discipline. Every ship began moving independently, following no pattern except their own judgment. The Harvester AI, which had been learning to counter human unpredictability, couldn't handle complete randomness. The machine ships began making errors, running into each other, firing at empty space where they thought human ships would be. Captain 1COK Zhang's destroyer, Ancient Thunder, found itself surrounded by 6 Harvester ships. By all tactical logic, he should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, he did something no computer could predict. He shut down his engines and let his ship drift like a piece of debris. "Sir, what are you doing?" his weapons officer asked. "Playing dead." 1COK replied. "Wait for it." The Harvester ships, confused by the apparently disabled vessel, moved closer to investigate. When they were at point-blank range, 1COK brought his systems back online. "All weapons, full power. Give them everything we've got." The Ancient Thunder tore through the surprised Harvester ships before they could react. Meanwhile, Captain Hansol Kim was leading his strike team through the chaos. His destroyer, Bison Strike, and 2 escort ships darted between the battling fleets, heading for the construction facility. "Fighters, stay close," he ordered Lieutenant Yoongi Beek. "We're going to need cover when we reach the target." The construction facility was surrounded by defensive platforms, automated weapons that fired at anything that came too close. Yoongi's fighters went in first, drawing fire and clearing a path. "Strike team, you have a window," Yoongi called over the radio. "Go, go, go." Hansol's ship dove toward the facility's surface. The structure was massive, kilometers of twisted metal and mechanical arms. Finding the right place to plant the bombs would be nearly impossible. "There, Lieutenant Minho," you pointed at a cluster of gravity generators near the facility's center. "If we can overload those, the whole structure should collapse." The Busan strike landed hard on the facility's surface. Hansel and his boarding team grabbed the experimental bombs and ran through the mechanical maze, dodging automatic defenses and repair robots. The bombs were heavier than expected and difficult to carry. Chief Engineer Jae-Soon Park had warned them the devices were unstable and could explode if handled roughly. "Careful with those," Hansol shouted as his team placed the first bomb near a gravity generator. "We don't want to blow ourselves up before we finish the job." Back in space, the battle was reaching its climax. Admiral Lee's fleet was taking heavy losses, but they were holding the Harvester defenders away from the construction facility. "Admiral," Commander Park reported, "we're down to 200 ships. The Harvesters still have over 100 vessels left." "Hold the line," Admiral Lee ordered. "Give Captain Kim time to finish his mission." Lieutenant Commander Dejino was coordinating the fleet's movements from the Soul's Fury. Her job was to keep track of hundreds of ships, moving in complete chaos, something that should have been impossible. But humans, she realized, were good at working together even when everything looked like confusion. "Blue Squadron, support the Daegu Defender," she ordered. "Red Squadron, cover the Valthari cruisers to wind." Inside the construction facility, Hansol's team was running out of time. The bombs were planted, but they needed to get back to their ship before the explosion. "Timer set," Jae-Soon Park shouted. "We have 3 minutes." They ran through the mechanical corridors as fast as they could. Behind them, repair robots were discovering the bombs and trying to disarm them. "Move faster," Hansol urged his team. "Those robots are smart." They reached their ship with 30 seconds to spare. The Busan strike lifted off from the facility's surface just as the bombs exploded. The effect was incredible. The experimental devices overloaded the gravity generators, which destabilized the magnetic fields holding the massive structure together. The construction facility began tearing itself apart, its own weight and the materials it was made from becoming weapons against it. "Strike team clear," Hansel reported. "Bombs, successful. The facility is collapsing." In space, the remaining Harvester ships suddenly stopped fighting. Their AI was receiving conflicting signals from the dying facility. Some ships tried to return to help, others continued attacking, and some simply stopped moving altogether. "All ships pursue the retreating enemy," Admiral Lee ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The final phase of the battle was a running fight, as human and Valthari ships chased down the confused Harvester vessels. Without their construction facility and its coordinating AI, the machine ships couldn't work together effectively. Lieutenant Yoongi Beek's fighter was damaged and running on backup power, but she stayed in the fight. "Viper Squadron, there's a group of Harvesters trying to escape. Let's make sure they don't make it home." Her fighters, battered but determined, intercepted the fleeing machines. One by one, the Harvester ships were destroyed or disabled. When the battle finally ended, the construction facility was nothing but expanding debris. The Harvester fleet was scattered and broken. The immediate threat was over. Admiral Lee looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted but smiling. They had done the impossible. A small fleet from a young world had defeated an enemy that had conquered star systems. Admiral, Speaker Nethera appeared on the communication screen. We cannot find words to thank you. You saved our entire civilization. You asked for help. Admiral Lee replied simply. We gave it, but you gave so much more than we asked for. We requested military aid. 6 months after the Great Battle, the galaxy was a different place. The news of humanity's victory had spread to every corner of known space, carried by traders, diplomats, and refugees who had witnessed the impossible. Admiral Dongmin Lee stood in the new Earth Defense Command Center, watching status reports from across human space. What had once been 3 small colonies was now a network of 30 systems, as other species asked to join the growing human alliance. Admiral, Commander Jiwoo Park reported, we have another delegation requesting a meeting. The Cathani Republic wants to discuss a defense treaty. Admiral Lee nodded. That's the 5th one this month. How many species have asked to join our alliance now? 17 confirmed, sir, and more are asking every day. It seemed strange to Admiral Lee. 6 months ago, Earth was unknown to most of the galaxy. Now species from across the stars were asking to become allies with the humans who had saved the Valtheri. Captain Hansel Kim was experiencing the same thing on a smaller scale. His destroyer, Busan Strike, had become famous after the strike mission, and now he found himself hosting visitors from dozens of different worlds. Captain, Lieutenant Minho, you said, entering his quarters with a datapad. The Zephyrian Trade Guild wants to name a space station after you. Hansel laughed. A space station? What did we do to deserve that? Well, sir, you did help save their entire trade network from the harvesters. They seem to think that's worth remembering. But not everyone was happy with humanity's new position in the galaxy. In a meeting room on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, representatives from the old powers were discussing the human problem. They're too aggressive, complained Ambassador Bissus of the hegemony. They solved the harvester crisis through violence. What happens when they decide we're a problem too? Their military expansion is concerning, agreed Counselor Vex from the corporate worlds. In 6 months, they've built more warships than most civilizations build in decades. But Speaker Nethera of the Valtheri stood up to defend humanity. You speak of them as if they are conquerors. But every species that has asked for their help has received it freely. They asked for nothing in return. That's what makes them dangerous. Dices replied, conquerors, we understand. But these humans, they give away their technology, share their knowledge, protect others without asking for payment. It's not natural. Meanwhile, on Earth, the transformation continued. Foreman Tae-Hyun Choi was overseeing the construction of the largest shipyard in human history. The facility would be able to build entire fleets simultaneously. Why are we building so many ships? Asked So-young Nam, now promoted to chief engineer. The war is over. Tae-Hyun looked out at the construction work. Because other wars will come, girl. When they do, we'll be ready, and so will our allies. The old foreman was right. Even as the galaxy celebrated peace, new threats were emerging. Deep space monitoring stations were detecting signals from beyond the galactic rim. Mechanical voices that sounded disturbingly similar to the harvester swarm. Dr. Hijin Yoon was studying these signals in her laboratory when she made a disturbing discovery. The harvesters we fought, they weren't the main force. They were just scouts. Dr. Byung-ho Seo looked up from his work. What do you mean? The construction facility we destroyed was sending regular reports somewhere. Based on the signal patterns, there's a much larger harvester presence beyond our galaxy, and they know about us now. The news was shared with the Earth Defense Council immediately. Admiral Lee called an emergency meeting with all allied species. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, Admiral Lee addressed the mixed group of humans and aliens. We have a new problem. The harvesters we defeated were apparently just the beginning. Worried murmurs filled the room. The Valthari had barely survived one harvester invasion. The idea of facing a larger force was terrifying. What do you propose? Asked Captain Drell of the Valthari fleet. We prepare, Admiral Lee said simply. We build more ships, train more crews, and make sure that when the real enemy arrives, we're ready for them. But Admiral, protested Ambassador Kess from the Centauri Federation. Our species have just started to recover from the last war. We don't have the resources for another military buildup. Then we'll share what we have, Admiral Lee replied. That's what allies do. Lieutenant Yoonji Beek, now promoted to commander, was leading the new joint training program. Pilots from 17 different species were learning to work together, sharing techniques and tactics. The key, she explained to a mixed group of human and alien pilots, is not to think like your enemy. Think like your wingmate. If you can predict what your ally will do, you can support them. If the enemy can't predict either of you, you win. A young Valthari pilot raised his hand. Commander, our training teaches us to follow precise formations. But humans fight in chaos. How do we work together? Yunji smiled. Easy. You be the stable anchor. We'll be the wild card. When we do something crazy, you cover us. When you need to retreat and regroup will cause enough trouble to give you time. The training was working. Mixed squadrons of human and alien pilots were achieving combat effectiveness ratings that neither species could reach alone. But the biggest change was happening in the civilian sector. Human merchants were traveling to alien worlds, sharing Earth's music, art, and food. Alien students were coming to human universities, learning about human science and philosophy. On the trade world of Kepler Station, a human restaurant had opened next to a Velthari meditation center. The owner, a former ship cook named G. Pak, was amazed by the response. "I never expected aliens to like Korean barbecue," he told his human customers. But the Velthari say it reminds them of their celebration foods. Cultural exchange was happening everywhere. Human children were learning Velthari music, while alien youngsters were fascinated by human sports. The galaxy was becoming more connected than it had ever been. Commander Sujin Lim was overseeing the construction of the new Joint Defense Academy, where officers from all allied species would train together. The facility was located on a neutral world, designed by both human and alien architects. The idea, she explained to visitors, is to create a new generation of leaders who think of themselves as defenders of the galaxy, not just their own species. Academy's first class included students from 12 different worlds. They would learn human tactics, Velthari strategy, Cathani engineering, and Zephyrian logistics. By the time they graduated, they would be ready to command mixed fleets in defense of any world. But not everyone was happy with these changes. On some worlds, there were protests against the human influence. Critics argued that Earth was changing the galaxy too quickly, forcing peaceful species to become militaristic. "We were a civilization of scholars and artists," complained philosopher Zender of the academic worlds. "Now our young people want to become soldiers and warriors. This is not what we were meant to be." Speaker Nethera addressed these concerns. "In a galaxy-wide broadcast, I understand the fear of change. But remember, the harvesters did not care about our art or our philosophy. They would have destroyed it all. The humans taught us that sometimes, to preserve peace, you must be prepared for war." Chief Engineer Jae-Sung Park was working on the newest project, defensive platforms that could protect entire star systems. The technology combined human engineering with alien knowledge, creating something neither species could have built alone. "These platforms will be our early warning system," he explained to the joint engineering team. "If the harvesters return, we'll see them coming long before they reach our worlds." The platforms were being installed in key systems throughout the Alliance. Each one was a masterpiece of cooperative engineering, built by teams that included humans, Velthari, Cathani, and others. As the first year after the war ended, Admiral Lee received a message that changed everything. It came from the Deep Space Monitoring Station at the edge of human space. "Admiral," the message said, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim. Whatever's out there, it's big, and it's heading this way." Admiral Lee shared the news with the Alliance Council. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "How long do we have?" asked Captain Durrell. "Based on the signal patterns, maybe 2 years, possibly less." 2 years to prepare for a threat that might be 10 times larger than what we faced before, murmured Ambassador Kess. "Then we better get to work," Admiral Lee replied. "We've spent the last year building an alliance. Now we find out if it's strong enough to save the galaxy." As the meeting ended, Admiral Lee looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the dark space between galaxies, something was coming. Something that would test everything humanity and its allies had built. But for the first time in his life, Admiral Lee felt ready for whatever came next. The galaxy had asked for help, and humanity had answered. Now the galaxy would answer together. The age of isolated worlds was over. The age of united defense had begun. And when the real enemy arrived, they would find not the scattered, defenseless civilizations the Harvester Scouts had reported, but a galaxy that had learned to fight as one. The humans had taught the galaxy something important. When someone asks for help, you don't just give what you can spare. You give everything you have.